Welcome, friends. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya. Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Today, my friends, the title of my talk is Our False Notion of Freedom. Most of us live in a free country. We have free will. We can do whatever we want, whenever we want. We think we're free, but are we really? I would have to say we used to think we were free before March of 2020, a year or so ago. Now it's actually radically different, isn't it? Anyway, let's set COVID aside for the moment. What about our karma and our actions from past lives? Do we suffer and enjoy the reactions of that karma? In health, in family circumstances, marriage, career or job, childbirth, type of government we enjoy, financial success. Do we have absolute control over all of these things in our lives? We do not, my friends. This has become startlingly apparent in the past year. So we live, well, at least we do here in Ireland and most of the Western nations, we live in a democracy. Democracy means freedom. It's supposed to stand for freedom. Freedom to vote for a particular candidate, a leader, a referendum, an initiative, a law, an honest leader or political representative who is free from corruption. Is that a guaranteed freedom? No, I don't think so. Prabhupada has said that a democracy in the modern era is nothing but a democracy. It's a crassy, all right, but it's consisting of several demons who are in it for themselves or are operating to the detriment of the whole, of the masses. I'm going to quote Prabhupada, our founder, my guru, a lot, the pure devotee, that's what he is, a lot in this presentation. Social welfare. In Ireland, I think it's 1/3 to 1/2 the people are on the dole, on welfare. In America, I think more than 1/3 of the people, if I'm saying that correctly, are receiving or have been receiving social welfare assistance. But with COVID, everybody's getting the COVID payment, which is good. On the one hand, the governments are doing the right thing. But people who are on welfare, on a stipend, is that a symptom of freedom? I don't think so. It's commonly known nowadays that 1% of the world's population now own 99% of the wealth. It's a bit of an imbalance, wouldn't you say? Cosmos versus chaos. Currently, are we in a time of cosmos or chaos? Of order or pandemonium? Of harmony or discord? Of organization or agitation? Been a lot of agitation over the past year. I don't know that it has abated that much. Pandemonium is an interesting English word from the Greek. Pandemonium means chaos and agitation and things up in the air and things out of control. That's what it means. What does it really mean? Pan, across. In other words, a wide area. Demonium, demons. Demonry, demoniac activity. Quite a bit of that going on in the world from diabolical sources. War and pestilence. Here's a quote from Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, he began to reflect on the unfortunate state of the world's inhabitants. And he said, quote, due to lack of knowledge about the Supreme Lord, people are suffering. Under the false impression of being independent, they commit all kinds of sinful acts. Sinful acts are acts that engender negative karma, negative reaction. What goes around comes around. Continuing, not knowing and not caring for the results, foolishly thinking that they are free to do as they like. But when the accumulated volume of sinful actions becomes too great, they suffer the consequences in the form of pestilence or war. Pestilence, war, natural disasters, make your list, fires, volcanoes, hurricanes, make your list. Prabhupada continues, they think that by politics and meetings they can avoid such things, but that is not possible. They are helpless to prevent them, and therefore they receive their punishment through the threefold miseries of life. What are the threefold miseries? According to Vedic understanding, according to yoga philosophy, adhyatmic, adhibautic, and adhidaivik. Adhyatmic are miseries caused by the body, the self, the mind and the body, which means the mind would be stress, worry, fear, anxiety, depression. Depression has increased significantly in the past year because of the lockdowns, right? And adhyatmika also means the body getting sick, getting ill. Well, we're supposedly in the middle of a pandemic. I don't see that it's a pandemic, except perhaps in India, because it hasn't killed that many people, less than 1%, typically, in any given country. But it's an epidemic of some kind, I guess. So then adhibautic are miseries caused by other people, other beings, animals or people, governments, decisions, this kind of thing. And then adhidaivik is the like war and pestilence and natural disasters. That's adhidaivik. So those are the threefold miseries. In November 29th, 1975, how long ago is that? 46 years, something like that. Almost 50 years ago. Prabhupada said, civilization will collapse very soon, all over the world. It will collapse. Either you may bring this ism or that ism to save it. Communism, capitalism, socialism, whatever ism. This civilization will nonetheless collapse. People will become mad, being harassed in so many ways. When one is harassed with so many problems, he commits suicide. So that position is coming. So why would Prabhupada say such a thing? Is he a doom and gloom kind of a guy? No. Although he is a realist, he's definitely that. Well, let's see. Why did he say such a thing? He said these things based on our behavior. Let us point out that we are in Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, the age of conflict and hypocrisy in our world, in the 4 ages or yugas or epochs of the universe. We are in the winter, Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, the Age of Darkness, ignorance, and negative behavior. So why did he say such a thing? What are the examples of this that our civilization is actually, as we speak, heading toward a collapse? Number one, industrial animal slaughter. Animals have been slaughtered in slaughterhouses and such places for how long now? How long have we had organized animal slaughter on an industrial scale? Long time. I don't know how long. Decades and decades. That you can't just kill innocent animals because you say you need them for food and then expect there to be no karmic reaction. Number two, abortion, the killing of babies in the womb. You're killing babies. You're killing humans. Well, you can say, yeah, but they're not born yet. If they're growing in the womb, they're alive. Any kind of growth indicates the presence of spirit in that being. That's how it works. The soul has entered that body. Nobody will grow or sustain if there is no soul, if there's no spark, if there is no Atman in that being. Very simple, not complex. So killing of babies. And the more we legalize abortion, which they recently did here in Ireland, I don't know now, it's 2 years ago, something like that. The left-wing liberals consider that a great victory. Great victory. And you're wondering about the negative karma come around? Number three, amorality. Are we becoming more moral as the days go by, or are we becoming more amoral? I will tell you honestly, my friends, because I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and since the 60s, the morality has been going downhill. So we are far more amoral than we ever were before. Number four, collapse of the traditional family unit. Divorces, separations, children growing up without father and mother. That's called the traditional family unit. Did I make this up? No. Yin yang. I mean, it's pretty simple. In the Vedic system, in the yoga system, we say Prakriti Purusha. The same thing, you know. The Ida, the Pingala, the two nerves on either side of the Sushumna running up the body through the chakra system. The sun nerve, the moon nerve, the masculine, the feminine. That's it. Number five, same-sex marriage. I can't even count them all. I have many lesbians and homosexuals that are my clients, some wonderful people. Is there a problem with people being lesbians or homosexuals? No, not in my mind. We've had those kinds of people in our world since forever. You can find them in the Mahabharata. I mean, they're all there. It's interesting. In the Sanskrit language, there are three genders. The male gender, Pumlinga. The female gender, Strilinga. And the neuter gender, Kliblinga. So anything that isn't either male or female is Kliblinga. So yeah, that's fine. No issue with that. But being married, where there's no yin and yang, there's no prakriti and purush, there is no positive pole and negative pole, not negative, not in a sense of negative, in a sense of charge. Polarity. And two yins or two yangs as marriage. Where do you find that? In any scriptures going back thousands of years. That's a good idea. Number six, establishment of gender dysmorphia as a legitimate alternative lifestyle. LGBTQ+++. God bless these people. Some of these people are my clients as well. I have no problem with that. But they fit into the neuter gender, Kleblinga. And they have a very high rate of depression and a high rate of suicide. It's a fact. Why? Because in psychological understanding, it is called gender dysmorphia or gender dysphoria. Maybe I got that wrong. Gender dysphoria, I think, is the correct name for it. Dysmorphia, I guess, if you have a sex change. That is a state of psychological imbalance. That's not a state of psychological balance. That's fine. Those people should be helped and accepted and embraced. No problem. But you don't instill this as an alternative lifestyle for the rest of us. You have less than 3% of these people who have gender dysphoria. You don't establish that as an alternative lifestyle and write that into the elementary school books from the time kids are 5 years old to recognize that this too is a legitimate lifestyle. It isn't. It isn't. This is not going to help society. Okay, number 7. I know many will disagree. That's fine. I have no axe to grind. I'm simply explaining things. Number 7, millions reject Dharma and pursue Dhamma. What does that mean? Dharma is life purpose, is our meaning in life. It's acting in harmony with our nature. It's acting in harmony with the natural gifts and talents and abilities that we have, that we all have as individuals, and acting for the benefit of ourselves and for the benefit of everyone else. That is Dharma. But we're moving, many of us are moving away from that. And we're not concerned about Dharma or going to university and studying something that is indicative or reflective of who we are by nature. But now we go to done it. Money, money, money. We have to get money. Let's get an MBA. You can get an MBA. There's nothing wrong with that. Master of Business Administration. But if you have no proclivity for that and no interest in that, why would you do it? Because we're programmed that money, 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 money. This is more important than Dharma. Is it? Number 8, corruption and personal gain to the detriment of the whole. Whoa. To the detriment of the whole. Dharma means to do what you do for your benefit and for the benefit of everybody else. That's Dharma. If you're not doing that, it's adharma. It's to the detriment of the whole. And often to yourself as well. So what are examples of this adharma? Number 1, politics. We have people in positions of political positions who are there because they're trying to maximize their own profits because it pays so well, and do deals because they're greedy and corrupt. So we have greedy capitalists, we have greedy dictators and tyrants. How many countries do you see? I'm not trying to beat up on Africa. African regimes, I mean, the degree of corruption is blatant. Didn't they just put, not Macron, who's the other guy, Sarkozy, in France? He's on trial, or he was on trial recently for corruption. I mean, you can find it everywhere, anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a third world country, right? Number 2, banking. When I was a kid, you could trust bankers. You can't trust bankers anymore because they're all trying to make a buck. They're not running a service anymore. They're speculators. They're gamblers. They have to make the numbers and satisfy the investors. Is that banking? Accountancy. How many corrupt accounting firms have hit the skids since the crash of 2008, 2009? Many. Stock market traders and companies. Well, I don't have to explain that to you, do I? They always try to get you to invest in not what's good for you, what's the hot topic of the day, or what their supervisor has told them, this is what you're going to push today. Well, gee, that company is not very healthy right now. It doesn't matter. That's what you're going to push. Go sell. That's a fact. They do that. Number 5, corporate culture. Corporate culture is, again, this is venture. Venture capitalists and vulture funds. Here in Ireland, the party that's been in power, this is just an example that can apply, that's been in power, Fine Gael, since, for the last 8 or 9 years. What they've been saying is they're going to get their handle on housing and make sure that we have public housing where people can afford. Most of the young people now have moved out of Dublin because they can't afford to pay the rents in the city of Dublin. The vulture funds have come in and bought up whole housing estates. A housing estate, and in case you don't know the term here, is a housing development where you've got, 70, 80 houses, brand new, developed, right? There they are, built. And instead of selling them at a reasonable price, they're renting them out. And this is in suburbia, where people want to buy a house, and then now they have a house. No. The rents here are through the roof. So what has this government done for the people in terms of housing? Nothing. It's gotten worse and worse and worse because they're catering to speculators and gamblers, essentially. Investors. Number 6, health. Hello. Health, pharmaceutical industry dominance. What did the pharmaceutical industry make? They make drugs, 99.9% of which have negative side effects. Well, what could be better than that? I mean, you want to get close to these guys. You want to buy their products. And they're so wealthy that they influence everything. Money buys whatever, power, influence. That's what we have in the pharmaceutical industry. Number 7, corrupt mainstream medicine. Well, there we go. Here we are. We've been in it since March of last year. If you go to a doctor and the doctor checks you out and you say you got a pain in your lower back, and he says, oh, yeah, you've got kidney disease. So we're going to have to cut out your kidneys and get you a kidney transplant. That's going to cost a lot. And if we don't, you'll die. Okay? Boom. Mainstream medicine. One guy's opinion. One opinion. Don't we normally say when we have a serious diagnosis or like a terminal diagnosis, don't we normally say, you should get a second opinion or perhaps a third opinion? Don't we say that to our friends and our relatives, our wife, our husband? For sure, we will say that. Yeah. But not in the COVID frenzy. There's only one opinion, just one thing. That's the mainstream. If you go against that, you are a nutcase. You must be crazy and you must be a conspiracy theorist because you're not being programmed with the program. But so go back to the guy with the pain in his lower back and the kidney problem. He goes and gets a second opinion and the doctor says, oh yeah, well, you've got kidney stone. Oh, what do I need? Well, I'll just give you something to dissolve them. You'll be fine. Oh, now I don't need a kidney transplant. Don't be silly. You don't need a kidney transplant. Who told you that? Oh, well, the other guy. Yeah, you see? That's what's happening here in this COVID business. Let's quote Prabhupada again. From April 14th, 1975. These rascals give trouble to the people. The people don't want the vaccine. Really? There are people who don't want the vaccine? Yeah. Millions of them. They will catch people and force them. Just see, he says. This is going on. Others are avoiding. They're going this way, that way. Sometimes they are captured and forced. These rascals are creating havoc. The so-called scientists and biologists, they don't know anything. End quote. That's Prabhupada's opinion. You think he might say a similar thing if he saw what was going on today? I dare say he would. There are scientists and biologists and virologists and professors and doctors who actually do understand, but they're being silenced as a group. There's thousands of them. I've talked about this before. No, they're being silenced. What about all the natural healing traditions that have been around forever, like Ayurvedic medicine, like naturopathy, like acupuncture, like go on and on and on. I mean, here in the European Union, in the last 2 years, they suppressed all kinds of natural herbs and products that they said it cannot be sold here anymore. Well, who suppressed them? Well, who's ever in charge of making those laws in the EU, backed up and demanded by Big Pharma. You know, they keep telling us you got to make a donation for the cure for cancer. The cure for cancer? Are you kidding me? Oh, instead of using what do they use? Radiation therapy to burn you, and chemo to poison you. The cure for cancer is a change in lifestyle, a change of diet, and lots of good vitamins. Many people have been cured that way. Depends what stage your cancer's at. You know, this is absurd that, you know, because there's too much money in it. There's too much money in it. We have to keep it going. You know, we have to fleece the people. We have to keep brainwashing them. Yeah, of course you do. That's what's going on with cancer. Excuse me. Number 8, suppression of natural healing. I said that. Number 9, corrupt mainstream press. Oh, the press? How could the mainstream press be corrupt? Well, my friends, if you want to run a radio station, a television station, a big media conglomerate or network, or newspapers of every description, you will need capital in order to run it and make it pay, and pay all of your people, all your reporters and your media people. They have to be paid. So who's going to pay for it? Well, that's simple. Advertising is going to pay for it. Advertising dollars. And where do those come from? Largely corporations. And corporations want their opinions to be reflected in the newspapers and on television. One of the biggest advertisers there is Big Pharma. Those of you who haven't lived in the US, where I have lived for most of my life, I have lived there in the past, you'll never see drug advertising like you do in the US. It is constant. You are bombarded with it. And then they want the newspapers, etc., and television stations to make sure they say the right thing, or we'll pull the advertising, and then your paper will collapse and your TV station will collapse. I mean, it's all down to money. The money is provided by corporations and plutocrats who tell them what to say in their media reports. Don't believe me? Investigate it. So, Prabhupada is suggesting that this civilization is on its way toward collapse. It's got a strong case in favor of that. So historically speaking, why do civilizations break down historically? Why? Because they abandon their ideals, their truth, their purity, and their innocence. That's why. And they become corrupt. So, now that I pointed all that out, what do we do? What should we do? Well, let's turn to the Vedas and see if they can give us some insight, which I'm sure they can. Ishopanishad, vidyang cha yas tad vedo bayam saha vidyayam mrityum tirtva vidyayam mritam ashnute. Translation, only one who can understand the difference between ignorance and illusion on the one hand, and that of transcendental knowledge on the other, can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. What does that mean? We have to understand the difference between illusion and truth, between illusion and reality. We are all in illusion here. We are all in Maya. This is the world of Maya, illusion. Because everybody thinks he or she is this body. And this world in which we find ourselves is the ultimate reality. How can it be? How can it be the ultimate reality when you're going to die? No matter how hard you try not to die or don't want to die, it's guaranteed. We're all on death row here. We're all subject to Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosham Darshanam. Birth, death, old age, suffering, and disease. Guaranteed. This is not the reality. This is illusion. So, people are in illusion. Let's take another verse. Bhagavad Gita. Daivi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. This is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. It's very difficult to overcome it, my friends. It's almost impossible. We're just not strong enough. I don't want to say anything negative about you. I know there are many great souls out there. I do know that, and I do appreciate that. But it is, right here, he says it. It's not easy to overcome. So those who have surrendered unto me, we got to get close to God. We have to become God realized. We have to become spiritualized. We have to raise our vibration. We have to raise our consciousness. This is how we begin to float above it all and see it for what it is. See the truth instead of being enveloped in this illusion. Do the Dharma, reduce the karma. We need to do our Dharma. We need to get in sync with the right actions that are connected to our truth in this lifetime and our truth eternally as souls on this particular journey in this particular lifetime. And that way you reduce the karma or eliminate the karma by offering everything to God, to Krishna. Prabhupada says here, suppose you say, I don't agree with the Vedas, with these beliefs. Just because you are free to disagree with Vedic knowledge does not mean that it has no effect. Just because you disagree with it, just as you cannot deny or ignore the laws of the state or government, you cannot deny or ignore the laws of karma, which are universal and are set into motion by God himself. You may say, yeah, I don't agree with it. You may say that I don't agree with the fact that fire will burn me. You can say that till the cows come home. And every time you stick your finger on a candle, you'll get burned. It's a fact. Prabhupada continues, you are not free to believe whatever you choose if it goes against the laws of man or the laws of God, right? If we drive on the wrong side of the road, we will get stopped by the police, or we will endanger others, or we'll have an accident. It's because you decide you're going to drive on the other side of the road. You cannot do it. Prabhupada continues, there will always be consequences. You cannot declare the law from the comfort of your home. I believe this and that's the law, because I say. So also you cannot declare what is spiritual reality or true Dharma just by saying what you think it is or should be. Prabhupada continues, only the government can make law in various states and countries. What you believe or declare to be true doesn't matter. It is the same for the universe. Your opinion of what the universe is or could be does not matter. Prabhupada called it Imaginology. This is Imaginology. This is what I imagine to be true. He continues, what actually goes on in the universe is not dependent or defined by the self-inflated opinion of humans with limited knowledge and no experience of anything other than their own planet and their own country or their own neighborhood. And if you haven't traveled, then what do you actually know of the planet? He says. Yeah, no kidding. You know, I have to laugh. I'm not laughing. I don't know what's the word here. I'm stunned. I'm stunned. Let's spend all of this money on space exploration. Why? There's nobody here that needs money. There's no starving people. There's no people who are homeless. There's no one here we can help. Let's take all of our technology and our behavior, the behaviors I've just pointed out to you in great detail, and get on a spaceship and take it to Mars, the new frontier. And guess what we'll do there? We'll wreck and ruin Mars too, because we've already ruined the Earth. Let's go ruin Mars. Let's go ruin the moon. So much self-inflation, hubris, unbelievable, arrogance, and no thought for what they're doing. Okay. Prabhupada says, Dharman tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam. He's quoting the Srimad Bhagavatam. What does that line mean? No, it is Prabhupada. No one can manufacture a religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow in the footsteps of great sages and authorities. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of causeless mercy to his devotees, the Lord explains directly to Arjuna what action is and what inaction is, proper action and improper action. Only action performed in Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. This whole COVID thing, this epidemic, this is the entanglement. This is the negative karma, the collective karma that we're all suffering. And, this vaccine, you're going to need one now, you're going to need another one in 2 weeks, and then in a month you'll need another one. Well, who's making this money? Oh, Big Pharma, giving you drugs, giving you vaccines that weren't properly tested. So you're the guinea pig. Sign me up. Not a chance. And there's another variant. Here's the new vaccine. Watch and see what happens with these vaccines in a year or two. Thousands of people have died from them, but they're not telling you that. That's a fact. And thousands have been injured by them. That's also a fact. But that's not going to be on the mainstream news, is it now? Prabhupada continues. Well, no, he's done, and then that's it for that. So he says, the idea here is people say, no, I don't need to follow the Vedas. I don't believe in that. I follow my own tradition, my own path. I don't need that. I've heard that a lot, and I've heard that a lot over the years. Yeah. Some of my clients will say, well, are you spiritual? Oh, yes. Well, how spiritual are you? Very. Okay. And in what way do you practice your spirituality? What form does it take? Oh, I believe. In what? Well, the universe. Okay. And what do you do about it? What kind of practice do you have? I don't have any. Some of them have practice, some don't. And then there's the ones that says, I don't believe in God because I'm God. I remember this lady saying this to me, announcing to me, and quite angry, I'm God. Oh, okay. And this lady is one of the most fearful ladies I've met. This poor woman is riddled with fear, but she's God. Okay. All right. So why can we not rely on humans to come up with these things? Because humans are prone to 4 defects, my friends. Here in the material world, humans are subject to many deficiencies. This includes scientists and medical experts. The difference between a conditioned soul and a liberated soul is that the conditioned soul has 4 kinds of defects, which I will point out to you in a moment. What's the difference between a liberated soul and conditioned soul? A conditioned soul, we are all conditioned souls if we are under the thrall or under the influence of the material nature, and we're subject to birth, death, old age, disease, suffering, as mentioned. Conditioned souls. A liberated soul is not subject to those things any longer, and is free to return to the spiritual realm from which we all came. We all originated. So what are these 4 defects? Number 1, to commit mistakes. To err is human. Everybody commits mistakes. It's a simple fact. Number 2, we are invariably illusioned. Illusion means to accept something which is not. Maya. Illusion. Maya means what is not. Everyone is accepting the body to be the real self. the body is only a temporary covering. It's like a fancy dress party or a costume party, and you put on a costume and you go act like this character in the costume, and then you go home and take it off. And when the body wears out, as it's stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the body will wear out, and then you'll have to give it up. It's also stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the body constantly goes through change. If you want to look at a photo of yourself when you were 4 years old or 3 years old, and look at yourself in a mirror now, you might notice that you've undergone significant change, right? Until you then look at yourself when you're 80 and see what you look like. So what about the eternal spark, the soul, which doesn't change? So we're invariably illusion. That was number 2. Number 3, we have imperfect senses. Often someone will challenge, can you show me God? Prabhupada says, but do you have the eyes to see God? You can't even see your hands in the dark. If we go in a room, we turn the light off, and at nighttime, you can't even see your hand. How great are these eyes of yours? You know, you look up in the sky, you see the sun and the moon, and it's this big. No, it isn't. They're huge. Your senses don't do the job. They're very, very limited, and simply they're imperfect. So what power do you have to see? Prabhupada said. And number 4, the cheating propensity. We have a tendency to cheat. Oh my goodness, my friends. The simple example would be you go into a shop, into a store, you buy something, we have an exchange of money, and the girl gives you $5 or €5 too much. Yeah. What do? You tell her? Or you go, look at, I got lucky. I got an extra 5. When she tallies up her till at the end of the day and she's short $5, she has to pay for it. You know that? And you'd think that's your luck. Myself, I go, if I find that in my hand, I go right back in and give her that money. Why not? Why cheat? What goes around comes around. If I cheat people, I'll get cheated too. I have no interest in cheating people. Anyway, what does Prabhupada say about it? He says, almost everyone has the propensity to cheat others. A person may be fool number 1, yet he will pose himself as being very intelligent. Although it is already pointed out that he is in illusion and makes mistakes, he will theorize, quote, well, I think this and this about that, and that is my opinion. But he doesn't even understand his own position in the scheme of things. Such people who invent scientific theories like Darwin, or who write books on philosophy using their imperfect perceptions and their tendency to cheat others, they are regarded as scholars and pioneers. That is cheating. Scientific theories change all the time as they are continually disproved over time. Going back to COVID, what's happening with COVID? This PCR test, most of the positive, when you test positive for COVID, there are many, many false positives because that test is not suitable. Even the guy who invented it said it wasn't suitable for the purpose for which they're using it. Yeah. So there's so much cheating going on. They were paying doctors to write, died from COVID. The guy dies from terminal cancer, but if he happened to have some COVID, and they'll write COVID, or they'll just pay the doctors to write COVID on the death certificate. Cheating. There's so much cheating going on with this epidemic. It's ridiculous. Prabhupada continues, Vedic principles are accepted as axiomatic truth, for there cannot be any mistake. That is acceptance. In India, cow dung is accepted as pure. Yet, cow dung is the stool of an animal. In one place, you'll find the Vedic injunction that if you touch stool, you immediately have to wash or take a bath, because stool is muchi, is impure. But in another place, it is said that the stool of a cow, in Ayurvedic medicine, they'll tell you, the stool of a cow is pure. With common sense, we could argue that's a contradiction. It is a contradiction from an ordinary point of view, but it is not false. Because cow dung has been analyzed and found to contain all antiseptic and prophylactic properties. It's a fact. It's used in medicines. So that's the Veda. In society, what happens to people who refuse to follow the laws of the state? They're imprisoned, right? In creation, what happens to those who do not follow the laws of God? They remain imprisoned in the material world and suffer birth and death repeatedly, and disease. So let's go to the Bhagavad Gita. Nirmana moha jita sangatosha adyatmana nitya vinivritta kama dvandvara vimukta sukha dukkha sangyayar gachant yamudha padam avyayam tat. What does this mean? Those who are free from pride, delusion, and attachment to people and things, who are absorbed in reflecting on the Paramatma or on Bhagavan, God himself, who have renounced material desires, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, such enlightened souls attain the eternal destination. Wow. So let's analyze that verse a little bit. Those who are free from pride. Humans have a tendency to become puffed up or filled with pride or arrogant by what they know, by their accumulation of knowledge, whatever it might be, or because they own things, or they have a lot of money, or they have a lot of degrees from universities, and they become self-important. That's illusion. So it said we need to become free from that. We need to. One of the symptoms, of spiritual advancement is humility. Very important. Spiritually advanced souls, pure devotees like Prabhupada, rishis, sages, real ones, realized souls are all humble. None of them are arrogant. And if they are, they're not what they pretend to be. So free from pride, delusion, well, we talked enough about delusion, and attachment to people and things. If we, at the time of death, which is a very important time, by the way, when you're exiting, coming into this world, birth, exiting the world, death, these are peak experiences, peak moments, my friends. And what goes on in your mind at these two moments is extremely important. So at the time of death, if you go, oh, I don't want to leave my loved ones. I don't want to leave my car. I just had it fixed up. I just really had it, it looks so good now. Or circumstances, I want to run my company. I don't want to die. Any attachment you have, if that's what's going through your mind at the point of death, boom, give him a body. He wants to come back. You focus on something that is material, that is of this world, you will be back. People, things, circumstances. You'll be back, guaranteed. You'll get another body. If you're delighted to hear that, then you're welcome. And then you'll be subject to birth, death, old age, and disease, and suffering once again. We want to transcend these things, my friends. Then again, with the verse, who are absorbed in reflecting on the Paramatma or Bhagavan, we have to reflect on something greater than ourselves. People are always looking for someone to worship. They want to worship athletes and actors and actresses and politicians and corporate leaders and wealthy people. Make your list. They always want to worship somebody higher. It's our nature. But all that will bring you back. The only thing you can worship, the only thing you should worship is God. Because that's the only way you're going to get off the wheel of samsara, repeated birth and death. Establish a relationship, your eternal relationship with Krishna, with God. It's the only way out. Continuing in the verse, who have renounced material desires. Well, I've more or less said that. You cannot have any material desires, not even one, at the time of death. Who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress. It's a tough one. That's a hard one. So if your life's going along, you're reasonably happy, fine. But if you're in distress, what if you're somebody who has been being driven out of your country, like in Syria, for example? So many Syrian refugees. These people are generally they're good people. They're people who, had a functional society. And, now they're in distress. So naturally, we would prefer to be happy rather than distressed. But you have to be consistent in both. Not easy when you think about it. As such, enlightened souls attain the eternal destination. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to get out of here. We have to overcome all these things. And based on our conditioning and our programming since we were little children, coming out of the womb, that's no easy thing to do. Here in the material world, let me say it like this: liberated souls who have returned to the spiritual world or who are in the spiritual world, far outnumber the conditioned souls in the material world, right? Just like a prison population. We're in prison. This is prison. We are here for rehabilitation, my friends. That's why we're here. This is rehab. You better learn your lessons. When you're in prison, you want to get out and be with everybody else who's free. But no, we want to be here. This is our false notion of freedom. Mm-hmm. So thank you for your kind attention. I hope this has resonated in some way for you, has offered you some sort of inspiration or insight. I thank Manu Das at the Dublin Krishna Temple for kindly inviting me to speak to you today, and I'll be back next month. I don't remember the date. Anyway, I'll send a notice on Facebook. And again, thank you. Hare Krishna.